Have you ever noticed that the people who are most interested in changing their lives are often the same people who are the most skeptical? They want better results. They want more freedom, or abundance, more opportunities. But they also don't want to be fooled. And honestly, that makes sense. The world is full of promises. Every day, someone is claiming they have discovered a secret method, a hidden technique, a breakthrough system. Most people have seen enough disappointment to become cautious. Maybe you've tried visualization before. Maybe you've listened to motivational speakers. Maybe you've read books about manifestation, abundance, mindset, or the law of attraction. At first, you felt excited. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, you felt like something was changing. Then life returned to normal. The bills were still there. The stress was still there. The same challenges kept showing up. And eventually a question formed in the back of your mind. What if none of this actually works? It's a reasonable question. In fact, skepticism can be healthy. Skepticism protects people from blindly believing every claim they hear. The problem isn't skepticism itself. The problem is when skepticism becomes so strong that it closes the door to every possibility before it even gets examined. There is an important difference between being skeptical and being closed-minded. A skeptical person asks questions. A closed-minded person refuses to investigate. One seeks evidence. The other avoids it. And when it comes to topics like the subconscious mind, sound frequencies, meditation, and personal transformation, many people automatically dismiss them without ever exploring how they actually work. The reason is simple. Most people assume that anything involving manifestation requires blind belief. They imagine that success depends entirely on convincing yourself that something is true. But when you look deeper into psychology and neuroscience, a different picture begins to emerge. Your brain is constantly responding to inputs, whether you consciously believe in them or not. Music affects your mood whether you believe it will or not. A loud alarm creates a physical response, whether you believe in alarms or not. A stressful environment affects your nervous system, whether you expect it to or not. The brain reacts to repeated stimuli automatically. This happens beneath conscious awareness. Think about advertising. Most people believe advertisements don't affect them. Yet companies spend billions of dollars every year because repeated exposure changes behavior. The same principle appears throughout life. The conversations you hear repeatedly affect your beliefs. The environment you spend time in affects your thinking. The media you consume affects your emotional state. And the sounds surrounding you affect your nervous system continuously. None of this requires belief. It requires exposure. The subconscious mind learns through repetition. That is one of its primary functions. It records patterns. It predicts outcomes. It automates behaviors. And much of that process occurs outside conscious awareness. This is why many habits feel automatic. You don't consciously decide every action. Your brain relies on established pathways. The more often a pathway is used, the stronger it becomes. This process is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on repeated experiences. Every repeated thought strengthens certain connections. Every repeated emotion reinforces specific patterns. Every repeated behavior makes future repetition easier. Over time, these patterns become your default operating system. And this happens whether you believe in neuroplasticity or not. The brain doesn't ask permission. It simply adapts. Now let's apply this idea to financial behavior. Most people assume money problems are entirely external. They think the solution is simply earning more. But many people have increased their income without improving their financial situation. Why? Because behavior matters. And behavior is shaped by conditioning. Someone who feels anxious around money often makes different decisions than someone who feels calm. Someone who expects scarcity often notices different opportunities than someone who expects possibility. Someone trapped in stress frequently reacts differently than someone operating from clarity. The subconscious influences all of these patterns. Not because it's magical, because it's neurological. The brain filters reality constantly. Every second, your senses collect enormous amounts of information. The conscious mind can only process a tiny fraction of it. So the brain decides what deserves attention, and it does so using existing beliefs and emotional patterns. This means two people can experience the same situation and notice completely different opportunities. One sees obstacles. The other sees possibilities. One notices reasons to quit. The other notices reasons to continue. This doesn't happen because reality changes. It happens because perception changes, and perception influences action. This is one reason personal transformation often feels difficult. People try to change outcomes without changing the internal patterns generating those outcomes. They focus entirely on external action. But external action is heavily influenced by internal state. A stressed brain behaves differently from a calm brain. A fearful brain behaves differently from a confident brain. An overwhelmed brain behaves differently from a focused brain. And this brings us to an important question. Can certain practices influence internal state without requiring belief? The answer appears to be yes. Consider meditation. Millions of people initially approached meditation with skepticism. Many assumed it was purely spiritual. Yet scientific studies have repeatedly shown measurable effects on stress levels, attention, emotional regulation, and brain activity. These changes occur whether participants begin as believers or skeptics. The mechanism isn't belief. The mechanism is practice. The same principle applies to breathing exercises. A person doesn't need to believe in deep breathing for slower breathing to affect the nervous system. The body responds automatically. Sound operates in a similar way. Music changes emotion regardless of belief. Rhythm affects attention regardless of belief. Repetition influences mental state regardless of belief. This is why sound has been used across countless cultures for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians used chants and resonance chambers. Monks used repetitive vocal tones. Shamans used rhythmic drumming. Meditative traditions used mantras. Different cultures discovered similar principles independently. Sound influences consciousness. Today, researchers continue exploring how certain auditory patterns affect attention, relaxation, and brainwave activity. While many exaggerated claims exist online, the basic principle remains clear. The brain responds to sound. And because the brain responds to sound, sound can influence state. This matters because state influences behavior. Behavior influences outcomes. Now, does this mean every claim about manifestation is automatically true? Of course not. Healthy skepticism remains valuable. Extraordinary claims deserve careful examination, but there is a difference between questioning a claim and rejecting an entire category of experience. Many people dismiss ideas before they understand the mechanisms involved. They hear words like frequency, subconscious, or manifestation and immediately stop listening. Yet, they readily accept other concepts that operate through similar principles. They accept that environment shapes behavior. They accept that stress affects performance. They accept that music changes mood. They accept that repetition changes habits. All of these involve subconscious influence. The difference is simply the language being used. The real question isn't whether belief creates change. The real question is whether repeated inputs affect the brain. And the answer is clearly yes. The next question becomes, what kinds of inputs are you exposing yourself to every day? Fear, negativity, stress, chaos, or inputs that encourage focus, calmness, awareness, and intentional thinking? Most people never ask this question, yet their nervous system responds to those inputs constantly. Imagine two individuals. One spends every day surrounded by stress, panic, negativity, and distraction. The other regularly creates periods of calm focus and intentional mental conditioning. Who do you think will make better decisions over time? Who will maintain consistency more easily? Who will notice opportunities more often? Who will recover faster from setbacks? The difference is not intelligence. The difference is state, and state influences everything. This is why many skeptical people eventually become curious. Not because they abandon critical thinking, but because they realize there is more happening beneath conscious awareness than they once believed. They begin observing patterns. They notice how sound affects emotion. They notice how environment affects motivation. They notice how repetition changes thinking. And suddenly concepts that once sounded strange begin to appear surprisingly practical. Because beneath the language, many of these ideas point toward the same truth. Your mind is constantly being shaped by what you repeatedly experience. Whether you're skeptical or not, whether you realize it or not, whether you believe it or not. The brain adapts. The nervous system adapts. Your habits adapt. Your perception adapts. And over time, those adaptations influence the direction of your life. The people who experience the greatest transformations are not always the ones who believe the fastest. Often, they're the ones who remain curious long enough to test something for themselves. They don't blindly accept claims, but they don't automatically reject possibilities either. They observe, they experiment, they pay attention, and sometimes they discover that what they originally doubted contained more truth than they expected. If this video gave you a new perspective on skepticism, the subconscious mind, and the hidden factors influencing your daily behavior, subscribe to the channel. Because in future videos, we'll continue exploring the science of sound, subconscious conditioning, personal transformation, brainwave states, and the psychological patterns that quietly shape success, abundance, and opportunity. And if you'd like to explore the sound-based practices and frequency experiences that many people are experimenting with as part of their personal growth journey, check the link in the description and the pinned comment below. Whether you're skeptical or completely open-minded, the most valuable discoveries often begin with a simple willingness to explore.